And now, back to our discussion. We have our guest in the building in person of Haruna Abdullahi, popularly known as Haruspice. Good morning, sir. It's a pleasure seeing you here.
Thank you very
Good
much,
to see you.
Viva.
Yeah, great to see you. So
Yeah.
we are going to look at the Ghanaian presidential election that just held a couple of days ago, and it has generated serious conversation across the African political space. And where Nigerians, I saw a couple of days ago, Nigerians were talking about the INEC chairman saying you have a lot to learn from this. But let's take it from your perspective. What's your take on the Ghanaian presidential election?
Thank you very much, Viva, once again. The Ghanaian presidential election that happened over the weekend, it's a pointer to how far we have come as African in terms of civilization. Something unprecedented actually happened before the final announcement of the result. Uh, the leading, the government in power and the candidate of the ruling government actually did call to concede defeat. It's a plus to democracy in Africa, even though we can actually conveniently say that that was a borrowed doctrine from Nigeria. Remember in 2015 when former President Goodluck
Goodluck
Jonathan
Jonathan.
made history by conceding defeat even before the end of the announcement of the coalition. For Ghanaians, just we have always been like a brother to them, so they're actually copying, the steps of Nigeria. And again, considering the implication of that was that a lot actually was prevented. We were supposed to be greeted with, array of violence because prior to the election day, the symphonies that were coming from Ghana were not something actually palatable. It was meant to actually wreck the peaceful fabric that defines that West African country. But we're happy that that didn't happen. The transition will happen, the election has happened, and there is peace in Ghana. So it's kudos to not just Ghana, but Africa, that we can actually organize an election that is violent-free, that is rancor-free. So kudos to Ghana.
So, what do you think Nigeria and Nigeria should learn from Ghana? What were the differences between the Ghanaian election, presidential election, and that of Nigeria? And the fact that when the INEC chairman commented on the Ghanaian election, Nigerians took it upon themselves and said, look, you did not conduct a credible election. So, what do you think are the lessons to learn from this election?
It's difficult to actually begin to say who has conducted a credible or non-credible election. There was an election in Nigeria, and winners actually emerged, and those who felt they were cheated or aggrieved went to the courts. And the court, being an arbiter of interpretation, actually did declare that there was indeed a winner. So you can't actually sit and say there wasn't a credible election in Nigeria. Election happened. If the court said otherwise and the government in power refused to heed to the verdict of the court, then we can actually raise concern that, in fact, there was a charade in Nigeria, not necessarily an election. So to say there wasn't a credible election is to be unfair to Nigeria as a country, is to be unfair to INEC. There may be pockets of shortcomings, as it may be, but we're saying generally that the election in Nigeria was not credible. It's not been fair to fairness, if I
Well,
put it that
yeah,
way.
I agree with you on that. But looking at the fact that we are talking about the courts here, even the courts themselves, you find some legal personalities that come and say, look, the judiciary is becoming a profession, or we are being mocked by others out there. Do you think the courts have been living to the expectations of Nigerians? This is what Nigerians expect them to do. Do you think they've really been doing enough?
The expectation from Nigerians on judiciary, it's not a roadside kind of expectation. These are professionals who are technically built or baked to provide interpretations to law. So for or and against and sitting on judgment, these are all products of the law. So you can't say that the judiciary or the legal sector is not living up to expectation. So one thing about life is that once it doesn't favor party A, he goes to the market with a very wrong narrative that he's been cheated. And the very day it favors him, you hear him say that the judiciary, it's at work. So you should definitely expect that there will be this kind of discordant narrative as far as election is concerned in Nigeria. There's never been a credible election from the streets, judging by what even the 1993 election that was acclaimed fair and free was also contested in court. So there can never be an uncontestable election in Nigeria. The narrative will always be that some people have been cheated. And that is the beauty of a game. Even in football, the referee is always bashed, lambasted, even lampooned whenever a match doesn't go the way of your team. So it's normal. We shouldn't begin to make comparison between Nigeria and Ghana. What happened in Ghana was an expression of the people, for the fact that the president, the contending candidate did not contest the election does not mean that his party will not go to court. He, as a person, has actually considered. But let's wait if his party will go to the court.
Exactly, that is what we should be expecting. Let's wait and see. But to be honest, just like you said, Ghana learned from Nigeria in 2015, and they are reciprocating. They're doing the same thing. So let's wait and see what will be the outcome, whether they're going to court. Well, I doubt that's going to happen. He's congratulated him. So moving on, the exit of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger Republic from the ECOWAS bloc tops the agenda as the summit of head of state and government of the Economic Community of West African States, that's ECOWAS, starts today. What do you think would be the outcome of this meeting?
Anything contrary to having these three countries back to ECOWAS, it's a failure on the part of the leadership of the current ECOWAS structure. At a time nations or continents are striving for a unified front, we are depleting our own union. It's a big concern that whoever is concerned needs to sit down and ensure that these three countries don't exit the ECOWAS. It comes with a very, devastating implications if we allow Mali, Burkina Faso, and what's the other country, the third country? Mali,
Niger,
and Niger to actually exit ECOWAS. It will affect the unification, the African call for a unified front. Talking about trade, free trade will be hampered. Multiple taxation will also return because once they are no longer members of ECOWAS, what do you expect? The breakdown of the barriers that we overcome will definitely return. So we must not allow that to happen. The West African sub-region is sitting on a very dangerous precipice, given that the insecurity has actually, permeated our own, territorial safety so much that from Niger, there's issue of insurgency down to Nigeria. When you go to Mali, the rebels are there. In fact, it's a military setup now. So the only thing we need to do as far as ECOWAS is concerned is to come to a round table. I'm glad they are meeting in Abuja. That should be topmost on their agenda to see how these people will not exit ECOWAS. Exiting ECOWAS will not do us well because military-wise, there won't be that synergy that we actually want to achieve. You remember the tripartite arrangement between Chad, Nigeria, and Niger, how the insurgency was actually defeated somehow.
Was it really defeated, or it's still an ongoing struggle, don't you think?
Pockets of insecurity, but you cannot compare what happened in 2015 down to 2016 there about where, or 2014, 13 to 15, where bombs were going up every day. People were, being mad and charred by the activities of terrorists. So we can say we have achieved a significant a milestone as far as the fight against insurgency is concerned.
We have achieved a significant milestone, but another group is springing up. Don't you think it shows that nothing has really been achieved so far as expected, or like we are meant to believe?
Until the end of time, there'll always be conflict. So brace up for more, insurgent group, disgruntled non-state actors. As long as there's human cohabitation, there'll always be conflict. As long as there's marriage, there'll be divorce. As long as there's life, there will be death. As long as there are security agencies or the state, there'll always be crime. So it's not the coming of a new terrorist group it's not something to be bothered or surprised about. That's why nations plan ahead. While we were, while in the early days of civilization, it was merely burglary, theft, kind of crimes that you have.
Yeah.
It metamorphosed to armed robbery after the Civil War. We saw the use of violent arms against fellow men when people became armed robbers. Then it translated into real terrorism. And from terrorism, we now have bioterrorism and the rest of it. So we should be prepared for eventualities because they'll always happen. As you are defeating one set of crime or conflict, another will definitely, crop up. So you can't blame the state that there is, and there'll always be conflict because human needs are never met. It's difficult to satisfy human needs.
Uh,
So
but, but, but
conflict of interest will always be there. And any group that feels, delineated or not carry along would definitely work to activate by expressing themselves in whatever guides that you think they want to. And I'm not surprised that one is actually coming.
one. Okay, we've not defeated the ones that are on ground already completely, and you are not surprised that one is actually coming.
No, I'm not
Anyways,
surprised.
let's go back to the ECOWAS conversation. So, do you think that ECOWAS feels threatened by these military juntas, in a sense that the military juntas are likely to influence other militaries in the ECOWAS sub-region in such a way that there could be more coups? Now we're looking at it. These are coming from the francophone countries mostly. What do you think is the problem? Do you think ECOWAS is scared? And the fact that at this moment, when the francophone countries are pushing the colonial, their colonial masters, France, away, we have Nigerian president who just returned from France, trying to have a dialogue to promote bilateral relationship with France. What do you think?
Yes, there's nothing wrong in Nigeria strengthening its ties with France. France is just like any other nation in the world. So for the fact that they're having issues with their colonies does not mean we should, disconnect ourselves from them. It is their war or it is their misunderstanding. But what we should play as a big brother is the role of mediation. Bringing these colonies and their colonial masters to a table. What are the gray areas? What are the issues that needs to be addressed? You can't blame a region or a people who want self-emancipation. They really want to be liberated from the grips of their colonial masters. So if I were the colonial masters, I would sit on a round table and discuss the terms so that their colonies will go back to the preferred form of governance, which is democracy. But as it is now, the colonies are not ready to sit down. The colonial masters are also not ready to have a roundtable discourse so that the big elephant in the room can be shared equitably. What we're talking about is all scrabble for resources, not any other thing. So the subjugation, the imperialistic tendencies that we're all faced to is because of that resources. So if they are able to sit on the round table and discuss this, it is their problem. Now, why the other sub-region, the nations in the sub-region who are practicing democracy, talking about Nigeria, what's their name?
Ghana.
Ghana, the Gambian, the Senegal, and the rest. What they need to do is to strengthen what the democratic ideals, so that there won't be need for any form of agitation. When a nation is governed democratically, giving all the dividends that comes, definitely you won't have any agitation for a change of government. And I think Nigeria has gone beyond the issue of being threatened or frightened by a regime change. Any regime change that will happen is going to be a democratically elected government. Forget it, the military, it's not coming back.
Are
We've
you
passed
thinking
that
about in
era.
Nigeria?
Yes, that
Are you
is,
sure about
yes,
that?
yeah, because it took us years to fight the evils, the menace that comes with military rule. So we are not in a hurry to go back to. That is why the actors, the democratic actors, must ensure that the right things are done, so that we don't fall back to the temptation of a military rule, because it's never a reference to governance, to modern governance.
Okay, it's been an interesting conversation right here with Haruna Abdullahi, also known as Haruspice. Perhaps you don't know him. He is quite prominent on social media, and he writes well. I enjoy his, writings. He's not just, he's public affairs analyst and commentator, and he's done a great job on the morning show right here on the Third Eye Television. I remember our conversation was centering around the exit of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger from the ECOWAS bloc, and of course the fact that ECOWAS heads of state are meeting today in Abuja to discuss this, exit and all of that. And then we also touched on the election in Ghana, where the opponent had to call and say, "Look, congratulations, you won this election." And the conversation centering around it, there were a lot of Nigerians saying there's a lot of lessons to learn from Ghana, and the fact that people took it up onto on the INEC chairman, talking about feeling like you didn't conduct a proper election, but look at what happened in Ghana. Anyways, that's just how people, like you said, there will be people who feel it's right, it's done right, and there's those who feel no, it wasn't done right. And like Haruspice said, you have to go to court, and of course, a lot of people went to court. Some won, and some didn't win. So that's it. But then it's been an interesting conversation here. Remember to follow us on all our social media platforms, talking about Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and of course, visit our website for more details on the activities of the Third Eye Television. And remember, we keep coming your way every day, giving you interesting conversations and topics, what's happening in the polity in Nigeria and beyond. My name is Bivan Magoni. It's been a pleasure being here, and thank you so much for coming, Haruna.
Thank you very much,
I hope to
Beaver.
see you around
Always.
more often.
This is our domain, so we're always here.
Thank you. Thank you. Do have a great day, everybody.